Of the Portsmouth City Council. Want to welcome all the citizens of Portsmouth and my colleagues. In accordance with Governor Ralph Northam's declaration of a state of emergency due to the novel coronavirus, Executive Order 51 on March 12, 2020, and the local declaration of emergency ratified by the Portsmouth City Council, and due to the coronavirus pandemic, which is continuing in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This called meeting of the Portsmouth City Council is being held by video conference on the 27th day of April 2021 without a quorum present in the City Council chamber in order to reduce the likely spread of the coronavirus in accordance with City Council Ordinance 2020-21 and 2020-102. Each council member is participating from their home or other remote location, and I am in the City Council chamber. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Here.
Mr. Battle,
Here.
Mrs. Lucas Burke. Here. Mr. Moody,
Here.
Dr. Whitaker,
Present.
Mr. Woodard,
Here.
Mayor Fluck.
Here. Members of council, we have for our consideration the minutes of a virtual call meeting on April 13th, 2021, a virtual regular meeting on April 13th, 2021. Is there any discussion of the minutes? If not, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for
Mayor,
approval.
move. Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Fluck.
Yes. Before we move on with the business of the evening, I would like to announce an outstanding achievement by a couple of our Portsmouth students, Trinity Allen and Sania Bamberg. Trinity Allen of Portsmouth, Virginia, has been awarded the title of Youth Poet Laureate Ambassador for the City of Portsmouth. As such, she is now part of the national cohort of outstanding youth involved in the Youth Poet Laureate programs around the country. The National Youth Poet Laureate programs works with local youth literary arts organizations across the United States to identify and celebrate exceptional youth poets who use their voices to inspire change. Trinity Allen is a dual enrollment senior at IC Norcom High School, attending Tidewater Community College as an early college scholar, where she will graduate in May 2021 with her associate's degree in social science. Sania Bamberg is Boys and Girls Clubs of Southeast Virginia's 2021 Portsmouth Youth of the Year. Sania is currently competing at the local level of Youth of the Year and exemplifies the qualities it takes to be part of this historic and challenging competition: leadership, service, academic excellence, and dedication to living a healthy lifestyle. She's in the 12th grade and attends Woodrow Wilson High School. Let's give Sania a hand.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilwoman Lucasberg.
Yes, may I take a point of privilege here? I know both of those young ladies and both very talented. One great singer and the other a great poet. Just thumbs up for both of them. Young ladies going to be great role models. But I would also like to acknowledge that we have with us today, you see me in my red jacket, that means that our Deltas are somewhere close by. And today is Delta Day at the Portsmouth City Hall. And we're excited about this because we just concluded our Delta Days at the nation's capital, where we were empowered by women like Kamala Harris and Carol Mosley Braun, and our own Marsha Fudd, who is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. And we're excited to have the Deltas from the Portsmouth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated here with us today. We have 200 plus members in our Portsmouth chapter. You'll hear from our chapter president later in the non-agenda speaker, but I wanted us to welcome the ladies of Portsmouth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority to Delta Days at the City Hall today. And you're muted.
Councilwoman Lucasberg, I certainly thank you for that kind welcome to Portsmouth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. And I want to applaud you and your wonderful organization and all you do to keep Portsmouth proud and strong.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, would you please read our speaker statement?
Yes, sir. City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
We have come to the item agenda of public hearing. Item 21-127. Madam Clerk, please read the public comment item.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just so that we can hear you clear, whoever's in the council chambers with their mic on is causing an echo.
Yes, sir.
There can only be one mic on.
Could we please have everyone that's not speaking put their microphone on mute, please? Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Public hearing to consider the annual operating budget for FY 2022.
Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Yes, sir. Our speaker is Mr. Mark Godalda-Gietrowski.
Mr. Yutrovsky, welcome. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, and other neighbors. It appears that for the second meeting in a row during this portion of the meeting's agenda, I'm the sole speaker. And that is unfortunate because just in the meeting before this one, you all covered quite a bit of information that was not previously available to me or other members of the public. I believe that had the city manager's report back been available for public inspection, there might have been a number of other people interested in expressing their views. I believe that the current circumstances brought about by our state of emergency have constrained public participation in this very important part of the council's business year. So I will not purport to be speaking for all my fellow citizens, but I think there's some improvement required for this process to really meet the standard of a public hearing. I would like to let you know on a specific item, I'm pleased that it is the sense of the majority of council that the school budget should be brought up to the amount that the superintendent's statement of need requested. I believe also that there should be further dialogue, and this has to be done in a joint meeting because council is not allowed to dictate to the school board what their priorities should be. But there is room for collaboration. And I want to say that as a policy of council, I believe there should be an ongoing policy of funding the salaries for people who are not covered by the standards of quality which the state promulgates. So the bus drivers, the crossing monitors, the cafeteria workers, the custodians, those folks' salaries are funded exclusively at the local level. And since the school board does not have the ability to raise revenue on its own, there should be a general person's agreement, probably memorialized by a resolution subject to approval by the school board, that council will heretofore always fund those positions at the same level of increase or bonus that it does for city employees. Again, the school board does not have a way to raise revenue independently, and the Commonwealth does not fund those positions. So where do you go? Federal government has never had any hand in providing those kinds of support to the school system. I would also like to say that I approve of your intent not to provide bonuses for Portsmouth retirement participants, but more so because already this year the federal government has provided stipends to many people, many taxpayers across the country because of the COVID pandemic. And the retirees are definitely better off than many of the other Americans who receive those federal funds, in that their regular retirement payments have not been interrupted because of the economic shutdown. For many of our fellow Americans, those payments were lifelines. But in fact, for retirees in the supplemental plans, these are extra monies. So I see no reason why council would even entertain the idea of doing a supplement after a supplement of that magnitude. Thank you very much.
Sir, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, are there any other speakers?
There are no additional speakers on this particular public hearing.
There are no other speakers?
No, sir.
Okay. Dr. Wood, you had your hand up, sir. You had your hand up, sir. You're muted, sir. You're muted, sir.
Yeah.
You had your hand up.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I would like to just say to Mr. Godowski, Yatrowski, I always appreciate his comments and concern for the city. Both Vice Mayor Barnes and myself as the liaisons, we have been in communication. I myself, Dr. Bracy, and I know Vice Mayor Barnes does communications as well. The amount that has been approved is an amount that I think if you talk with the superintendent, based on some state funding that is now has been increased, that you see that we have gone above what we had said. And so I would recommend you speak with him about that. Also, you brought up a point about the non-SOQ positions, which you are correct. I would lobby our state representatives because prior to the recession, the state used to fund the non-SOQ positions. And after the recession, those positions have no longer been funded by the state. And the state has the money to fund those positions. And so that's something that we really have to push our state legislatures to change that funding to include the non-SOQ position. So I just wanted to share that was a state issue that was created when they cut that out.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
And we now have, this public hearing is now closed, and we have come to item B on the same public hearing. And Madam Clerk, could you please read this public hearing item?
Yes, sir. Public hearing on the recommended 2022 through 26 capital improvement program.
And Madam Clerk, are there any registered speakers for this item?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mark Goldie-Gutrovsky.
Mr. Godaldi Yutrovsky, you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, and other neighbors. So there were three items that I wanted to address specifically, which I did not speak to last week. In the capital funding plan, the jail is unaddressed. And I believe whether we take any action this year, there should be a long-term plan for that. Actually, not a long-term plan, I can't quite wrap my mind around the proper phrasing for this, but with all deliberate speed, I think gets to the core of it. And I believe that we are in something of an opportunistic situation with regard to the condition of the regional jail. I've spoken to you before about the idea of establishing a wing within that facility that is administered by our own sheriff and his deputies for the housing of Portsmouth inmates. I want to repeat that. I believe that some capital funds would needed to be expended to make that a possibility. But a crisis is too good to waste, and the crisis that seems to have engulfed the regional jail looks like a potential opportunity for us to address a particular long-standing problem of ours. So let me commend that idea to you. I also want to urge you to take steps toward addressing a transfer station for the city of Portsmouth. I regularly attend SIPSA meetings, and it's clear that in the not too distant future, the option to use the Wheelabrator facility in lieu of a dedicated transfer station for our city is likely to disappear because of the plans that the federal government is making and moving forward with to build their own power station. So I believe we need to be well into the planning process here for a transfer station of our own. It could be in collaboration with our neighbor, Suffolk, and possibly in collaboration with Chesapeake out in Western Branch. If the three of us could collaborate on a facility there. But we really need to be doing some creative thinking. I would not like to see a transfer station in Portsmouth. Our land that is useful for economic development purposes is too scarce. So if we could cozy up to our neighbors through some sort of arrangement, perhaps something having to do with water supply, which we do for both of them, I think there's an opportunity there. Lastly, the water feature, sometimes referred to as a water park, for handling stormwater runoff in the downtown area, but also serving as a recreational facility. That was mentioned in a work session, and it got a lukewarm reception, particularly from some of the new folks. I want to ask that we move forward with that, and that the newer members of council who've not seen the previous briefings and have not been part of the public process that was involved in bringing that to the fore be briefed on the process to date and what its full potential is. It becomes particularly important with sea level rise looming. That is an area of vulnerability for our downtown, and the implementation of that particular bit of infrastructure could be very important for people who live downtown and for people whose businesses are downtown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And Madam Clerk, are there any other registered speakers, ma'am?
No, sir, not on this public hearing.
Hearing none, then this public hearing is now closed. We have come to item C on this public hearing. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the public hearing item?
Yes, sir. Public hearing on proposed changes in rates and levies for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Do we have any registered speakers, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mark Adoldik-Yatrovsky.
Mr. Godoldig-Yatrovsky, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, council members, and other neighbors. So a year ago at budget time, we had a revenue item added to impose parking fees in our garages nightly, over the weekends, and on holidays and for special events. That was forestalled, I believe, for 6 months because of the pandemic, but then it was implemented on the 1st of January, despite the fact that many businesses are not open and that those additional parking fees could act as an inhibitor to people coming to patronize businesses in the downtown area. What I would ask you to do before going forward into the new budget year with those parking fees in place is, one, assess whether the cost of collecting those fees is going to be less than the revenue to be derived from the imposition of the fees. And secondly, to assess whether the timing of those additional fees, the night, evening, and holiday special event. Let me remove special event, because I think a good case can be made when we go back to having special events that there could be a value to charging for special events. But nights, weekends, and holidays, I think it's a harder case, and there's definitely a business detriment to doing so. So I would ask for an evaluation of that before the new budget is adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, are there any other registered speakers on this item?
No, sir.
Then this public hearing is now closed. We have come to the item on the agenda of unfinished business, item 21-113, use permit application. And we have three different A, B, and C that we have to cover. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read the public hearing item, item A?
Yes, sir. Mount Hermon, Robert C. Barclay IV, Esquire of Cooper, Spong, and Davis, P.C., on behalf of the Mount Hermon Community Improvement Foundation, requests a use permit at 3001 High Street for an entertainment establishment. The property is zoned General Mixed Use GMU. The Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan recommends commercial development. Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions deferred from your April 13, 2021 City Council meeting. And council members, for your information, you received notification today from the applicant requesting deferral of this public hearing. Meg, can you remove this from the screen until they decide whether they want to continue the public hearing tonight or to defer it? Members of council.
Vice Mayor Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
I think a bunch of us have spoken with the Civic League. I don't see the need for a deferral. I think we can vote on this tonight.
Are there any other members that would like to regarding this item, the deferral of this item? Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm ready to vote on it tonight. We deferred it at the last meeting to get information from the Civic League, and I've received information from the Civic League, and I'm ready to vote on it tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Woodard, sir, you have the floor.
I concur with my colleagues as well. This item came and we deferred it, and I think it's time to take action on it tonight. I think most of us spoke with the Civic League and our mind is made up. Thank you.
Are there any other colleagues wish to comment on this item for deferral or to move forward with the vote? Councilmember Battle, sir, you have the floor.
We can move forward, sir, with the vote.
Yes, sir. Well, we have a consensus of 4 members of council to move forward with this item.
Yes, sir. Members of council, for preliminary purposes and legal purposes, if you would allow the applicant to speak and open and close the public hearing, and then you all can deliberate if you would like. Meg, can you put the presentation back up, please? Is Mr. Barclay online?
Yes, Madam Clerk, I'm here by phone, and I believe I introduced myself at the last meeting and provided my business address. Now represent the applicant, the Mount Hermon Community Improvement Foundation. Mr. Alvin Ely is the chairman of that organization, and he advised me today that he has made arrangements to, I think, meet with the Mount Hermon Civic League on May the 6th. And that was the earliest date that apparently a meeting could be coordinated. And he would be providing a presentation to them on that date. And so the reason we've requested the deferral is to allow us to make that presentation to the Civic League, allow him to talk to them and address any concerns they might have. and accordingly, we asked for a deferral to May the 25th. The reason we did not ask for May the 11th is I was informed by the clerk that that is the evening you're voting on the budget, and so the agenda is full for that night. So that's why we're requesting the deferral to the 25th to give Mr. Ely the opportunity to meet with the Civic League and to see if he can address any concerns they may have. So again, that's why we request the deferral.
Thank you, sir. Colleagues, you have heard from the applicant representative for the reason for the deferral. We can have the discussion at this time. Do we want to grant the deferral based on the reasoning, or do we wish to take the vote tonight? Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, since our last meeting, I was curious, did Mr. Barclay or Mr. Ely, during that 2-week period, who did they reach out to?
This is Mr. Barkley. Mr. Ely was handling that, and he's the one that works in the community, so he did not advise me of who he spoke with, but what he told me today was that the meeting was arranged with the Civic League.
So you don't know who the president of the Civic League, who it is that he's communicated with?
No, Mr. Ely has been handling all of that.
Okay. You're muted, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Lucas Burke.
Thank
Vice
you,
Mayor.
Councilwoman.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Councilwoman
Mayor,
Lucas Burke.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Barclay, for presenting that. And it is customary where council members do allow an applicant an opportunity to defer, but we have heard from several members of the Civic League. We received a voicemail message, we've received emails and calls from the members, and we thought that this had been taken care of prior to this public hearing. Councilman Woodard and myself are members of the Planning Commission, and this item was presented through the Planning Commission, and it was our understanding that the Civic League had been abreast of this information and were on board with that. So we're getting conflicting information now that the Civic League has not been contacted, and now a desire to share this information with them is being requested. So it does give a conflict appearance from the community and the Civic League on, what this matter really entails. So the majority of our council members have already expressed an interest. I wouldn't mind doing the customary thing that we do, but we have a council who can make those decisions to defer or not to. So I follow the advice of the majority members of council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lucas Burke. So we have had the discussion. The majority of council has made a determination. We are needing a motion and a second on this matter.
Are you asking about the deferment or on the agenda item?
Whichever you desire to do with the motion. Is there a motion to vote on the item as an agenda item or deferment? You bring the motion, sir.
I move to deny the use permit.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
This item is denied 7-0.
We've now come to item 21-113, use permits. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. Resolution granting the request of Kenjo Outdoor LLC for a use permit to construct a new 14 by 48, 672 square foot, 50-foot high permanent freestanding outdoor advertising sign on a 1.914-acre lot located at 1420 Columbus Avenue near the I-264 164 MLK Expressway westbound ramp, exit 6, UP 2102, first reading vote 7-0 approved.
Council members, we're in need of a motion.
Move for
A
approval.
second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, were there any speakers?
No, sir. There are no speakers.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, were there any discussion?
Mayor.
Councilwoman Lucas Burke, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess this is a question that may be for our Deputy City Manager, Mr. Baldwin, or our City Attorney on issues where we have public hearing and the council votes in a supermajority or a unanimous vote. Why is it that we have to have a second reading? Is it some reason why, we have to take our applicants through this extra step in the process to come back when we have unanimously or super voted for the agenda item to pass? Just wanted to get some clarity on that for this item and several more that appear like this.
Councilwoman Lucas Burke, it's in the code. It's not a requirement. It would not be a requirement if it wasn't in the code. The city manager and I have talked about that. And if city council at some point wants to rescind that code section that requires 2 readings for use permits and zoning changes, they could do so. And I think most cities, I believe, only have 1 reading. I think we're sort of unique by having 2. But it's a code section that can be rescinded if the council wants to do so. And I think the city manager is looking at that.
Okay. I would like to take that consideration if it's the consensus of our council members. I think we're getting some thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah, why don't we put the hands, because I can't see everybody's thumb.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, councilman.
So, Madam City Manager, you'll investigate that and move forward?
Yes,
Thank-
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? We had a motion and a second.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Clever.
Yes.
And council members, just to be consistent, even though I know the answer to this question, on item A, you voted 7-0 to deny this item. Normally, it would come back for a second reading. Do you not want this to come back on your agenda?
I'm not.
Okay,
I see heads nodding no, so I will go with that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We've now come to item C under unfinished business. And Madam Clerk, please read the resolution.
Yes, sir.
Resolution granted the request of Alvin Keels of D&K Builders for a use permit for a 280-unit multifamily and mixed-use development consisting of 7 four-story apartment buildings and a restaurant within a clubhouse on a 13.79-acre parcel at 4358 Greenwood Drive in the multifamily urban residential zoning district with
with
a
a proposed
density of 20.30 dwelling units per acre. The property is owned by the Cavalier Manor Development Group LLC, UP 2103. First reading vote 511 approved.
And Madam Clerk, we are in need of a motion. Well, council members, we are in need of.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And Madam Clerk, are there any speakers for this item?
No, sir.
No.
I'm sorry,
yes, there is.
I'm sorry. Mr. Tom Ratnauer? I believe he's on the screen.
Mr. Retnow?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Thomas Rittenauer. My office address is 432 Battlefield Boulevard South, Chesapeake, Virginia. I am the head architect at RBA for this project, and we are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Is there any discussion from the members of council or any questions for Mr. Retnow?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, I'm going to abstain from voting for legal reasons.
Duly noted, sir.
Right.
Council members, is there any discussion on this item, or do you have any questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
I know that Dr. Whitaker is abstaining. Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
No.
This item is approved 5-1 with 1 abstention.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
We've now come to the city manager's report on the agenda. Item 21-128. And Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Yes. An ordinance establishing a personal property tax relief percentage of 53% for calendar year 2021 personal property tax bills.
Thank you, ma'am. We're in need of a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, are there any speakers for this item?
No, sir, there are no speakers on this item.
Is there any further discussion from our council members?
Mr. Mayor?
Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Oh,
Mr. Mayor?
Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Just for clarity to the public, could you have the city manager explain what this is so that the public will know what we're voting on?
I'll try my best. This, as far as I understand it, and please wait. Actually, I'm gonna defer to legal to provide a summary of this item.
Okay.
Council members, this is a requirement that we pass this on a local level. The state reimburses a certain percentage, a certain amount in property tax, mainly car tax. This came about many, many years ago, and they adjust the percentage every so often. But it's something that comes back to the citizens, the residents of Portsmouth. They get a reduction in their personal property tax on their vehicles. I think it was Governor Gilmore many years ago that instituted it, and it stayed on the books. Uh, we are required to pass it on a local level to get that reimbursement for our citizens and our residents. And so it's very positive for the residents of Portsmouth because they're getting a reduction on the car tax. And the treasurer and the commissioner of revenue can calculate exactly the amount that we should get to align ourselves with what the state is giving. They put it in the budget to a certain, to that percentage, and so it's a good thing. And we would encourage you to pass it. It's something that needs to be done, and it can't be deferred because the tax books are about to go out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Stromberg.
Sure.
Are there any other discussion from the members? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Item 21-129. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Yes, sir. An ordinance to amend and reordain Division 1 of Article 5 of Chapter 12 of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, Public Procurement Program to facilitate participation in procurement transactions by small businesses and businesses owned by women and minorities by amending subsection 12-176A to substitute the term city manager for the term purchasing administrator, and to amend and reordain Article 5 of Chapter 2 of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, by adding a new section 2-168 regarding minority participation in business and economic development programs.
Move for adoption.
Wasn't this deferred?
Yeah. That's
Oh, that's,
To the
yes.
25th.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
I was going to ask Councilwoman Lucas-Burke if she could withdraw her motion so I could put in a motion to defer.
Thank you. Yes, I withdraw for Dr. Whitaker's.
Oh, okay, thank you. I move that we defer item 21-129 until May 25th. Also, directing council to allow Council Vice Mayor Barnes and myself to meet with the city manager and city attorney regarding this issue.
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Or do we need a second?
Madam Clerk, we have a motion to defer. Is there a second?
Yes.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Item 21-130. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting a Shelter Plus Care Grant in the amount of $550,321 from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and appropriating said funds in the FY 2021 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Behavioral Health Care Services to provide supportive services to chronically homeless and at-risk Portsmouth residents.
Move for approval.
Council members, we need a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk, were there any speakers for this item? Were there any speakers?
No, sir.
Is there any further discussion amongst council on this item? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Item 21-131. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting funding from the Virginia Department of Social Services in the amount of $1,200 and appropriating said amount in the FY 2021 Social Services Fund for the Family Partnership Meeting Incentive Program.
We're in need of a motion and second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk, were there any speakers for this item?
No, sir.
Any further discussion amongst council? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Item 21-132. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting planning grant funding in the amount of $38,410 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through the Portsmouth Homeless Area Consortium Continuum of Care and appropriating said amount to the FY 2021 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Social Services.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Madam Clerk, were there any speakers for this item?
No, sir.
Council members, is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none and seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Item 21-133. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance. I mean the resolution, I'm sorry.
No problem. A resolution to amend the cost allocation agreement between the cities of Chesapeake, Hampton, Newport News, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, and the Transportation District Commission of Hampton Roads.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Madam Clerk, were there any speakers? for
No,
this
sir.
item?
No speakers.
Council members, do we have any questions or discussion on
Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yeah,
Of course, sir.
could someone from the management team just update us on this issue?
Could you repeat that?
Get my microphone work. Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of council. This, as council's aware, the transit service for the city of Portsmouth is provided through the Hampton Roads Transit. You know, we're a member of a regional operation there, and there's a cost allocation agreement that's in place. It really restricts the way that HRT can allocate some of their other funding sources. And normally during the course of a year, the city's portion of the transit service is paid for in a combination of direct city fund through your budget process, as well as fares from ridership. And as I'm sure you're all aware, during the current pandemic, the ridership across the region, including Portsmouth, is low. And normally what would happen is we would end up in a what they call a true up situation, where we'd end up paying more money back to HRT for the service, which is being provided even if the ridership is low. And by agreeing to this modification, this would allow HRT to use funds it gets from other sources through the federal government and the state to eliminate the city's additional costs on that and balance it out to hopefully keep the city from having to pay any additional costs for the transit service.
Thank you, Mr. Are there any speakers for this item, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Is there any further discussion from our members on council? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. We've now come to the caption of new business. Item 21-134, boards and commissions. Vice Mayor Barnes and Dr. Whitaker, are there any appointments to bring forward for council's considerations?
Yes, there is. There's it's one person, two different boards. He was replacing the behavior healthcare. We have a new director, Nathan Woodard. He will be replacing Ms. Burford on the two boards that she was on, which was Community Criminal Justice Board and Community Police Policy Management Team. So I want to submit that for approval by council.
Move for approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Item 21-135, item submitted by council. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance confirming and continuing ordinance 2020-102, adopted on October 13, 2020, and the emergency procedures established thereunder to ensure the continuity of local government during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And Madam Clerk, we need a motion in a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any speakers for this item?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mark Godelski.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council
Thank
members.
you, Mr. Yatrovsky. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and other neighbors. If I may digress for a moment, I want to welcome our new city manager and quote the first officer of the original Starship Enterprise, "May you live long and prosper."
Thank you.
I want to say that you all have made some strides in terms of dealing with the difficulties presented by the pandemic under your virtual meeting process. I applaud you for enabling citizens to be seen as well as heard. In the very beginning, there was no hearing even. It was all by email. And so we are achieving some semblance of near normalcy through the assistance of technology. I would suggest that you can make further progress here. One recommendation I would make in terms of citizen participation is that you have a hotline for real-time issues. We had a meeting some time back during which a group of citizens were lined up to speak by conference using the telephone conferencing center, and council decided to defer the item that they had come to speak on, but there was no way to communicate that to them in real time because there was no way for the people who were waiting to get in to contact somebody to find out why they were still out in the queue. So I would ask you to take that additional measure to make this more user-friendly to the citizenry. I've heard many people, well, I've heard a number of people grumbling about the fact that we're not having in-person meetings, and grumbling about the fact that all of you are not in the same physical room together. Personally, I believe that if you can be seen and heard by each other, that's not an unreasonable situation for everybody to be in. Business is being conducted. The world continues to turn, even though we're still in something of a lockdown situation. So I would say don't jump the gun. Ensure safety first. And the other complication is that when we finally emerge from the cloud cover and can see the ground below us, all is not going to be the same because your budget for next year involves major modifications to the city hall itself, involving elevator repair and overhaul and plumbing repair and overhaul. So the ability of citizens to get from the ground floor to the council chamber is probably not going to be as easy as it was in the past, and with the limitations of the past noted. I would ask that you consider ways to carry on this format as a supplement if we do go back to in-person meetings. There are a number of longtime council participants. Joe Wright and Reggie Allen come to mind. Hope they don't mind their names being bandied about. But before the shutdown, before the lockdown, they had stopped coming and they had been regulars here. And the limitation was darkness. Having to drive in the dark made it impossible for them to attend. This allows people situated as they were to still be in the moment, to still be part of the proceedings as they're going on. So thank you for the progress you've made. I hope you'll consider taking a few extra steps to refine the process, and may we come out of this sooner rather than later.
Thank you, sir. And council members, is there any additional discussion on from any members? Vice Mayor Barnes, sir, you have the floor.
Just something quick to kind of piggyback off of Mr. Mark G. I would like to see when we are able to meet again, and hopefully that's pretty soon, to kind of expand from outside the city chambers and bring the meeting to the public. And I'm not talking about just the school. I'm talking about out into the neighborhoods. One of the way to get people involved is to actually go to them and not expect them to come to us. So I would like to actually see the meetings go into some of the neighborhoods, so we can get more people involved into the process.
Thank you, sir. And one question I did have for Madam City Manager, understanding that we're still under the COVID guidelines and the pandemic. Um, if we could look into, you don't have to give us the answer tonight, but if we could look into potential projections of when we may be able to come back in the chamber as a body and accept individuals to come into the chamber under the necessary restrictions that may be in place.
Yes, Mayor. We're working on it as we speak. We're looking for that staging of how we can reopen. So we'll be presenting that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Barnes?
Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg,
Yes.
Mr. Moody. Sir, you muted.
That would be a yes.
Thank you. Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Council members, do you have any other items to submit? Vice Mayor Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
So I have a couple of things. First, I want to give a shout out to Brighton Elementary School. I was able to go into Brighton Elementary School and read to the children, just to kind of be informative. They are looking for celebrity readers, Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday at 2:30. So if you would like to participate in that, contact the principal there, Miss Perry Campbell. Also, we had Tidewater Community College ribbon cutting ceremony. They opened up a food bank and a new student resource empowerment center. The city manager was there, Councilman Woodard was there, the mayor was there, and myself, and also the same with Wawa's. They had their grand opening on last week, and that was a big event. And then what was it? And this past weekend, Craddock Civic League had their Earth Day celebration, which was a major event. A lot of people from different neighborhoods came around. Actually, myself and Councilman Woodard participated in flower planting. So I can add something new to my resume. But on a serious note now, I wanted to ask the city manager to look into what the impact to our budget would be for paying boards and commissions, in particular PPIC, EDA, Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing, and the Planning Commission. Wanted to get a report regarding that to see what the impact to our budget would be. And then one more thing. I I know we're looking to move our city into a new direction and well, as the mayor says, a bold new direction. And I think with that is some changes that need to be made. So with that being said, I think the city's logo is outdated. So I would like to see us work with our school system to develop a new logo for our city. I think that's if there's no objection from council from any other item I submitted, I would like to see us work with our school system to kind of change the logo. When I was on the school board, that was one of the things that they did as well. And they actually got the students to get the logo together, a new logo. So and they've changed that direction, which I also think it gives gives the city a hip to it. Give us some swagger per se. So I would like to see if there's no objection from council that we actually work with our school system in developing a new logo for the city of Portsmouth.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I do have something I'd like to add to that. Certainly not an objection with getting input from our school system or children, but I think we do have a marketing department and a marketing director that has done a phenomenal job with getting our logo in a really good place. And I think that we should all collaborate together, perhaps, and come up with a better idea if one is possible. But certainly, would go through our marketing department.
Um, I understand what you're saying, but I would like to see our kids get involved in this process. That's not to say our marketing department is horrible or bad or anything. I'm just saying that it's actually a good project for our children. It get them more invested into our city because they actually develop something for our city that's going to be used for a very long time. So for me personally, like I said, if there's no objection from council, I would like to see our school system involved in and see our students getting involved in this because I think this will build a sense of unity for our city and really help them to really get involved in the process.
You have the floor, sir.
I agree with Vice Mayor Barnes, and I think both of you are sort of saying the same thing in regards to the involvement with the marketing department. I know our deputy city manager, Mr. Pace, has an excellent relationship with the schools, and so that's something that's a natural bridge to what Mr. Barnes is saying, and involving, I think, two excellent assets in our city, the schools as well as Mr. Pace. And so I think his idea is excellent idea. The logo of the ship, I think needs to be changed. Yeah, so, I agree.
Well, sir, for your input, and we will ask the manager to get with our marketing department and perhaps get with the schools to begin to investigate opportunities for perhaps creating a new logo. Thank you.
And that was all of my comments.
Council,
Thank you.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just saying I was done. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Lucas Burke.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for those comments. I think that it is an excellent idea, especially when we're in the process of STEM and STEAM to include the arts. And we do have some talented students here in the city of Portsmouth. Whatever our decision, I would hope that one of the things that I had proposed in the future when we start to meet again or start to gather with other members through the Chamber of Commerce or other business meetings that we're in attendance for, that we would get the name badge that was suggested, which has our name. I know that other city councils have the name badge, and I think Deborah, our Madam City Clerk, had a sample of one magnetic name badge with our name and our new logo once we decided whether it's through students' art contest or through our marketing department. And one other thing, I want to also applaud our mayor for the tour that he did with our Coast Guard and the Navy. It was highlighted and he represented us very well. And it also gave our citizens and our 757 citizens an opportunity to see what we have to offer right here in the city of Portsmouth. So thank you for representing us well with that, Mayor.
Are there any other items submitted by council? We've come to item 21-136, report on pending items. Ms. Jones, are there any pending items?
Not to my knowledge, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The only pending item I just want to raise, as you know, in the past, we've discussed changing the city charter, particularly the non-interference language that's on section 3.01. And as we move towards that, and Attorney Stromberg keeping us to that timeline for incorporating it in our legislative package, I would like for council to consider in removing it, not necessarily taking the entire 3.01 section out, but removing the criminal liability language that is in that section. I think that that's something that has been abused, and we've seen the ramifications of that. And so in lieu of, now that we have a city manager in place, I think that just taking that criminal language out would strengthen that non-interference section.
Thank Thank you, sir. And it is my understanding that we are moving forward with that process, and we appreciate the recommendation.
Thank you,
Dr.
Dr.
Whitaker.
Whitaker.
Mhm.
Madam Clerk, we have reached item 21-137, non-agenda speakers. Do we have any non-agenda speakers?
Yes, sir. Our first speaker is Ms. Susan Fink.
Ms. Fink, are you there?
Okay.
Ms. Fink, you have 5 minutes.
I am here. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can see you, ma'am, and we can hear you. You have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Okay. My name is Susan Fink, and for those who might not know me, I'm the director of Friends of the Portsmouth Juvenile Court. We are a nonprofit organization. We provide services to youth and families who have come before the Portsmouth Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court. We've been around for almost 30 years. We meet all the regulations of the Department of Criminal Justice Services, and we are fully accredited by the National CASA Association. I've been with the agency for 10 years. I am here tonight to talk to you about a dual public health crisis that is affecting Portsmouth families. The first everybody knows about, and that would be the COVID-19 public health crisis. The second is violence. I'm sure many of you have read that the level of violence has increased across the country. The highest figure I've seen is 36%. According to Portsmouth Police Department, homicides increased last year by 89%, and individuals shot increased by 48%. Consistent with national trends, the offenders are disproportionately African American males. The pandemic seems to have exacerbated the structural circumstances that allow COVID and violence to thrive in under-resourced communities, those that are particularly entrenched in poverty and live in neighborhoods that have been marginalized. Fortunately, this issue is beginning to rise to the surface. Recently, the Department of Criminal Justice Services here in Virginia released a RFP specifically to 5 cities in the Commonwealth to do a gang assessment. Portsmouth was one of the 5 cities requested to apply for the RFP. After that, DCJS released an RFP for a 2-year grant, again for specific cities, to implement evidence-based, specifically gun violence intervention programs. Again, Portsmouth was invited to apply, and it's my understanding that Portsmouth Police Department is working, if have not submitted that application. Also recently, Mayor Donnie Tuck of Hampton hosted a forum with the mayors to talk specifically about the issue of gang violence in Hampton Roads. I'm going to skip a lot of the sort of academic stuff that I was going to share with you. I sent you all copies of several peer-reviewed journal articles, including one that talks about community violence and its how it affects young children, academic performance, acting out, aggression, hyperactivity, etc., etc. It has all been linked back to community violence. A number of studies have shown that inner city urban kids are exposed to a disproportionate amount of violence. Most middle school students have witnessed at least one act of violence, And by age 15, 1 in 3 males have witnessed homicide, and 30% of those are the homicide of a close friend. I also shared with you an article from the John Jay College at the State University of New York on evidence-based approaches to addressing community violence that do not involve law enforcement. Part of the reason that I share that with you was to drive home the point that community violence is a public health issue. It is not a law enforcement issue. If we continue to focus on it as strictly a law enforcement issue, we're never going to get at the root problems. What we're dealing with is a symptom of the problem. What we need to do is to look at the risk factors and the protective factors of community violence. And those are the things that lead us into evidence-based and community-based solutions
Ms. Fink,
to community violence.
Your time is up, ma'am.
I would like the opportunity to talk with you each individually if that's possible.
You're welcome to call the clerk and set up a time to talk to the mayor, ma'am.
Mayor Glover, if she has more to say, I don't mind listening if that's okay with council.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with
Sir,
I don't have any problems.
This is every agenda speaker has 5 minutes, sir. That's in the rules. And if she wishes to talk more, she can call each council member and set up the time to meet with them.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I just want to, if it's a consensus of council to extend her time 2 minutes, we can do that, and that wouldn't be in violation of the rules. I was curious just to hear her conclusion.
Me too.
As far as
I understand that, but in the interest of fairness, if we extend her time, we would have to extend everyone's time.
No.
And there, sir, I have the floor, sir. If she would like to speak more on the matter, she is more than welcome to come and speak with us either individually or in small groups.
That's actually council discretion to allow persons to finish their comments. And if it's a consensus of council, I would like to hear her conclusion.
Well, we will take the consensus vote, sir. But I just want to be clear that we also need to be mindful of every other speaker as well. So
well, if
it is a consensus of council, if it is a consensus of council, let me show of hands to continue the conversation, and we will do that. We have 4 to continue the conversation. Ms. Fink, you may continue your conversation.
She did? Oh, she gotta be let back in.
She back in?
She was, and she keep getting. Hey, Daniel, what's going on?
What's going on? Oh, she's frozen.
It appears that she's frozen on the screen at this time.
Action failed, so I mean, take her out, and maybe she'll come back. Okay.
What would you like to do?
Council members, if you could go ahead and hear the next speaker, we're going to try to get Ms. Fink back on the line. She was frozen, and so we had to let her out the room, and hopefully she'll come back on the line.
Do we have our next speaker?
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Miss Lisa Downey Hood is the next speaker.
Ms. Downey Hood, are you with us, ma'am?
Yes, sir, I am.
Welcome. You have 5
Thank you.
minutes.
Thank you, sir. To the Honorable Mayor Shannon Glover, Vice Mayor DeAndre Barnes, and the members of the Portsmouth City Council, good evening. I am B. Lisa Downey Hood, President of the Portsmouth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I bring you greetings on behalf of the 245 officers and members of our illustrious organization. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority is an organization of college-educated women committed to the constructive development of its members and to the public service with a primary focus on the Black community. For over 77 years, the Portsmouth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta has worked diligently to provide services to the Portsmouth community through its programs and initiatives rooted in our organization's 5 pragmatic thrusts. From our work with OASIS, Park Walk for Hope, Adopt a Spot, our youth initiative programs like Delta Academy, Delta Gems, Embody, Adopting Schools, our voter registration drives, our candidate forums, financial workshops, and forums on COVID-19, Alzheimer's disease, and mental health, to our ongoing efforts to educate the community on voters' rights, restoration, and voter education. The Portsmouth Alumni Chapter remains steadfast in our commitment to public services necessary to help the citizens of our community. This weekend, we participated in our 32nd annual Delta Days at the nation's capital. At this annual event, we are equipped with the tools necessary to implement the sorority's social action agenda for the communities in which we live, we work, and we serve. This conference promotes leadership, advocacy, and empowerment among our members to bring effective solutions to social challenges. This year, over 4,000 sorority members gathered to discuss Delta's legislative priorities, which impact all of our communities. Those priorities include health equity, educational disparities and inequities, redistricting, voting rights, access, and engagement, and reimagining public safety. Supporting these projects, the Portsmouth Alumni Chapter is specifically focusing on real police reform that comes from dramatic investment in critical resources addressing the root cause of trauma, economic insecurity, and disparities. Equitable access to broadband in our underserved communities. In particular, ensuring the disbursement of monies that Portsmouth will receive from the rescue bill so that children will have better access for their educational needs, and that our city can increase its broadband network access to spur economic growth and development. Ending the practice of gerrymandering. Drawing districts to favor one political party or racial group has been used to hurt communities of color. Voting rights, voting access, and voter engagement, making sure that every eligible voter can engage in the electoral process, access to voting, and the ability to cast their vote without any barriers. And equitable access to health care to ensure that all the citizens of Portsmouth are able to attain the necessary resources and healthcare assistance regardless of social or economic determinants. As such, we continue to focus our efforts to maintain an open dialogue with city officials to help us determine the areas where we can be of better assistance and to help promote the goals and objectives of city leadership and the community through our programs. We look forward to continuing this dialogue with you and continuing to do the work to move Portsmouth in a bold new direction. We would also like to take this opportunity to honor and address your councilwoman, our esteemed soror, Lisa Lucas Burke, a member of City Council, and also to welcome our new city manager, Angela Jones, who is also a member of our esteemed organization. Thank you very much for this time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. And thank you for all your work in the community. Have a great day.
All right.
Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Council members, we have no additional speakers, and there was an issue with Ms. Fink's line. We can't bring her in, and her call has dropped. So at this time, there's no additional speakers.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council members, seeing no additional business for our consideration, we are adjourned.
Good evening.